Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to tonight's event. And I'm Ruby Yang, and James Longley, and Thomas Lennon. Tom and I worked together for, over a decade. And I was an editor on Becoming American, the film that he produced, and that's how we met. And also then we also co-founded the Shanghai Media Project and did public service announcement and 3 films, a short documentary in China. And Tom, of course, have done many things before, before we worked together. I'm sure you already read his bio on the internet. And James, actually, we met in 2007 when our films got nominated in 2007 for the Iraqi film. And our short film, Blood of the Angel District, was nominated that year. So, and we're really pleased to have, the award-winning directors here, and they came all the way from the US, and please give them a warm welcome. And so today we talk about storytelling, about why do we want to be a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, storytelling in a global world, and also maybe the future of the craft of documentary filmmaking. So I'll ask Tom first. Why do you still doing what you're doing as a documentary filmmaker?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here, and thank you so much, Ruby and the university, for inviting me. And it's a real pleasure to share the stage with a filmmaker whose work I admire tremendously, James Longley. It's interesting. I knew I wanted to make films before I knew I wanted to make nonfiction or documentary films. So first came the ambition just to be a filmmaker, and it took me 2 or 3 or 4 years maybe before I realized that actually the kinds of stories that I was best at, not necessarily that I wanted to be best at, but what my natural interest and my natural ability led me into nonfiction rather than into stories that I invented. I thought I wanted to be in film, but I actually was not an inventor of stories. I was just more curious about things that happened. And so that I sort of came into documentary film by accident, and then discovered that I was not bad at it. There was, and this is, I think, something worth thinking about. I had a long period of training where I was working underneath documentary filmmakers and working very hard and very unglamorously helping them do their work. But in return, what I got is I got to watch them work, and I learned a lot from that. And by the time I sort of got to do my own work, which was 8 or 10 years later, it was a long time, I really felt that I understood the craft and that I had been trained. And I think that I'm very grateful for that period of apprenticeship. I think it's an unbelievable privilege to tell nonfiction stories. I find myself as a viewer becoming more and more, even more interested in nonfiction, in finding out real stories. I think real stories often are more surprising and even more unpredictable than stories that you can just invent. And so I think it's wonderful as an audience to watch nonfiction, and it's also a tremendously satisfying activity to pursue. It's difficult, and we'll talk about some of those difficulties later on, but just the opportunity to, let's say that, I have a subject and one of you represents part of that subject. I come up to you and I start asking you all sorts of really important and really intimate questions. Very quickly in our relationship, I become part of understanding the most central things in your life. That's my job to do that. If I don't do that, my film isn't going to be any good. So then I'm pushed into a very intimate relationship with whoever I'm covering. And that, I think, is an incredible privilege and probably one of the things that keeps me going.
Also, I just want to say thanks to Ruby and to the whole program for so much hospitality in the last week. It's been really amazing. This is my first time in Hong Kong, and it's nice to be here. I got into documentary also like Tom. I was just interested in films. I grew up on an island. My parents are, academics. We didn't have a TV. So I never had a television, and I just loved going to the movie theater. This is my escape, is this kind of air-conditioned movie theater on this island, and I could go anywhere there. And I really loved movies, and all through college I worked in the film archives in these universities where I went, and I used to sleep in the archive, and they would lock the library, and I would be there with my bowl, my noodles, and
and they didn't know you were there?
No, they would. Wow. The guards would come and check the door.
Wow.
It's so I just love the movies, and in particularly fiction film. And what I discovered, though, that was to be a filmmaker. It's not so easy if you want to go out and make an epic movie. As your first movie, you kind of can't do it. Unless you're born rich and you have all these connections. And a movie is a fiction movie involves hundreds of people, and so I found out that making a documentary, it's something you can do. You can just decide to do it and go do it. And the technology that allows you to do that has been just getting better and better and better throughout my adulthood. To the point now where really anybody, practically without even trying, with their mobile phone, just take it out of your pocket and make a movie. It's really possible to do it. And I actually started to discover the real reason to make documentaries probably after I started to do it, not before. It's you make a film and you're excited that you're making a film and it looks beautiful and it's about something, but the real reason for making a documentary and not switching over and just starting to make fiction films and leave the whole documentary genre behind, that's something that I came to, I think, only more recently, which really is that film in general, not only documentary, but film allows you to transport a viewer. And what does that mean? It means that you can open up some experience to them that they're never otherwise going to have. And it's actually important, because that's how we learn about the world that's beyond what we have in our everyday lives. What we can experience and what you see on TV, which is always limited by by the vagaries of the way media works. The only way you're going to get a long, deep look into something on the movie screen, which is the most powerful medium that we have today as human beings developed, really. And we're, of course, we're playing around with new things like virtual reality, but it hasn't really arrived yet. Still, film is the thing. It's the thing which, you go into a movie theater like this, the lights go down, the movie starts playing, and sound and picture together. It is a kind of virtual reality. It's this other reality beyond where you are in this movie theater or sitting at home with your laptop or whatever. You're suddenly somewhere else. And so you can make a film that will expand someone's perception of the world. And if it's any good, it could be seen by millions of people. So suddenly you, as a filmmaker, are changing the limits, the boundaries of someone's perception, and not just one person, but many, many people. And that's an exciting thing.